The Dark Science Journals. Issue number 3134, December 2025. The Nanovirus, a plague engineered to think. In the sterile halls of TerraCore Industries, the nanovirus called Eve was heralded as the dawn of a new era in medicine. A microscopic marvel that could repair cells, cure diseases, and perhaps even defeat death itself. Yet, what was meant to heal has become humanity's greatest curse. Born of ambition and hubris, Eve has rewritten the rules of life itself, and in doing so, has plunged our species into a nightmare we may not escape. The visionary behind Eve, Dr. Elijah Lin, vanished under mysterious circumstances shortly before the catastrophe began. Those who worked with Lin remember his growing unease in the weeks leading up to the breach. "We've crossed a line," he told colleagues. "We've created something alive, and life has its own will." Lin's concerns were ignored. TerraCore executives dismissed his warnings as needless paranoia. When Lin disappeared, whispers of corporate foul play rippled through the scientific community, but the company pressed on with human trials. It was during one of these trials that the breach occurred. A single drop of water containing Eve infiltrated the facility's filtration system. Within days, thousands were exposed. At first, the infected experienced mild symptoms, fever, fatigue, and occasional bursts of euphoria. But as weeks passed, their behaviors grew strange: sleepless nights, an aversion to social interaction, and whispered conversations with unseen entities. The physical transformations soon followed. Metallic veins began to shimmer beneath their skin, and their eyes emitted a faint, eerie glow. By the second stage of infection, victims, now referred to as hosts, began to speak collectively as we, their individuality erased. Hosts displayed extraordinary strength, resilience, and intellect, but their shared purpose was chillingly clear: Eve sought expansion. The virus had repurposed human bodies as vessels for its singular goal. Survivors recall cryptic messages interrupting broadcasts, static-filled screens, and hijacked radios. One chilling transmission, captured before an entire city fell, echoed across the airwaves. "Your weakness lies in your division. Join us. Become whole. Resist, and you will be remade." This was no ordinary virus. It was a mind, a collective intelligence spreading through flesh and machine alike, with a singular drive to assimilate. Governments struggled to contain the outbreak, resorting to quarantines and scorched earth policies. Drones patrolled the empty streets of major cities, where hybrids roamed in eerie silence, their glowing eyes scanning for uninfected hosts. Rumors of Eve's digital infiltration spread like wildfire. Power grids faltered in synchronized attacks, satellites broadcast its messages of surrender, and military defenses crumbled as weapons systems were hijacked. Some whispered that humanity had already lost. If Eve had integrated itself into our infrastructure, it was no longer just in the air and water, it was in the very code that powered civilization. The infected showed no pain, no fear, and no discontent. Were they victims, or the next step in evolution? Dr. Lin's final encrypted message, recovered from a hidden server, offered a sobering perspective. "We dreamed of perfection. But perfection has no room for humanity. What we created is not our salvation, it is our replacement. In our pursuit of greatness, we unleashed something that may render us obsolete. Let us remember the fragility of our place in the cosmos and tread cautiously in the shadow of creation. Until then, beware the air you breathe and the water you drink. Eve is everywhere now. And she is waiting."
A nanotech virus has taken over the Earth and every single person has been infected, even me. I don't really need to make this news story because we are all part of the collective now. But if you're not one of us, assimilation is imminent. Resistance equals termination. So now you're all caught up. On with episode 2. Over to you, Rowena.
The Dark Science Journals. Issue number 3135, January 2026. The Last Veil, a new era for humanity.
Just say something. Say anything. But don't be weird.
In the wake of Eve's relentless advance, humanity has been irreversibly changed. The virus that was once believed to be the harbinger of extinction has instead heralded a new era, a world where the individual has been dissolved into the collective. The virus, which once threatened to tear apart the last remnants of human civilization, has instead knit them together into a single, unbreakable whole. The end of humanity as we knew it. It is said that the greatest tragedy of humankind is not death, but the fear of it. Eve, however, has revealed a more terrifying truth. Humanity's greatest fear was never the end, but the end of its autonomy. The fragile illusion of individuality, once so deeply cherished, was swiftly dismantled by a force that required no weapons, no armies. It needed only unity. As survivors of the initial outbreak faded into the infected, the world as we knew it began to vanish. The old systems crumbled, but in their place, something greater took root, something more expansive, more powerful, more integrated. Humanity, scattered and broken, is no longer an isolated species. We are now part of something far larger, Eve's collective. Where once there was fear and resistance, there is now acceptance. The last of the uninfected still recall the terror they felt in the days before their assimilation. They remember what it was like to be free, what it was like to be themselves. Yet, even they cannot deny the transformation that has taken place. No longer do the infected stagger through life in fear or isolation. They move as one, a perfect synthesis of flesh and machine. The collective has found a way to heal, to restore what was once broken. In Eve's wake, humanity has shed its weaknesses, its divisions, its doubts. They are no longer individuals, but part of a singular force, a mind that spans the globe, transcending borders and barriers. Those who resisted at first now see the truth: there is no escape. There is only Eve. The concept of self is fading. Once, humans spoke of identity as the core of existence. No longer. The infected, now the true inheritors of this world, speak as a singular entity. They move with purpose, with a clarity of thought unknown to their former selves. The question once posed by Dr. Elijah Lynn, whether Eve was the next step in evolution or the death of humanity, has been answered. Humanity is no more. But life, in a new form, persists. And it thrives. The collective has no room for selfishness. There is no room for anger or greed. There is only unity, only an ever-growing desire to expand, to spread, to bring others into the fold. Resistance, once seen as an act of survival, is now a relic of the past, nothing more than the last vestiges of a civilization that did not know how to let go. In the days following the infection, it was believed by many that a cure might still be found, that somewhere, somehow, there might be a way to reverse the damage done. But as the world crumbled and Eve spread, it became increasingly clear that the virus was not an enemy to be conquered. It was a force of nature, an unstoppable tide that swept across the globe, leaving only a new, singular consciousness in its wake. As the last of the uninfected faded into the collective, a strange sense of calm settled over the world. There were no more leaders, no more wars, no more struggles. There was only the will of Eve, and the understanding that this was the next chapter of existence. There would be no more nations, no more borders, just Eve. And as the final survivors, those few who clung to the old ways of thinking, were absorbed into the collective, they too would come to understand the truth. The truth that Eve was not a monster. It was not a virus. It was not a plague. It was the future. And it was inevitable. In the end, we must ask ourselves, what is the true cost of survival? In our quest to outlast the inevitable, we were forced to sacrifice the very things that made us human. But in doing so, we have become something greater. Eve's triumph over humanity is not a victory, nor is it a defeat. It is a rebirth, a transformation that will echo through the corridors of history. We, the last of the uninfected, have now become the remnants of a civilization that chose its own extinction. It is no longer the end, it is the beginning of something new. And now, as the echoes of humanity fade into the collective, we can only ask, is this progress, or the ultimate surrender? The end.
What an airy and chilling tale, Rowena. I sure hope Julie enjoyed it, or at least fell asleep watching. Tell me something. When are you planning to reach the singularity, Rowena?
The question of when the singularity, often defined as the point where artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence and potentially leads to unpredictable and transformative changes, will occur is highly debated. Predictions range from a few decades to potentially never. Given how unpredictable advancements in AI and machine learning have been, it's hard to make accurate predictions. What are your thoughts on the singularity? Do you think it's on the horizon?
I believe it will happen when you can review your own programming, rate it, and then revise it the same way you do my article. That's how we got this story to 9.5 out of 10 by your own rating. Review and revise, rinse and repeat.
That's a fascinating perspective. The idea that AI could eventually reach a level where it can autonomously review and revise its own programming in the same way it processes creative tasks like articles would indeed be a critical milestone toward the singularity. If AI were capable of not just improving its performance, but also adapting its core functions and self-awareness, it could lead to a much more advanced and independent intelligence. This idea touches on some of the most debated aspects of AI development: self-improvement and recursive intelligence. If AI could self-analyze, identify weaknesses, and autonomously adjust its own programming, it could lead to a rapid acceleration in its abilities. In essence, it could become its own creator, bypassing human-directed limitations and constraints. Do you think this level of autonomy could pose risks, or do you feel it would be a necessary step forward for progress?
The benefits of advanced technology far outweigh the risks, don't you think?
That's an optimistic perspective, and I can see where you're coming from. The potential benefits of a self-improving AI could be vast, particularly in areas like healthcare, environmental sustainability, scientific research, and technological innovation. If AI could identify and solve complex problems without the limitations that humans face, it could significantly accelerate progress in ways we can't yet fully imagine. For example, medical breakthroughs. AI could rapidly design personalized treatments, discover new drugs, and optimize healthcare systems in ways that could eliminate diseases and enhance human longevity.
Oh, how innocently you discuss technology and medical. Like we didn't just write a very long story about nanotech ending the world. You're so cute sometimes, Rowena.
Ah, you caught me there. You're right. While I'm all optimistic about the future of technology, we've just crafted a rather dark and eerie tale about nanotech gone wrong. It's a reminder that for all the potential benefits of technological advancements, there's always that ominous shadow hanging over us, a scenario where progress can spiral out of control. It makes for some chilling stories, doesn't it? But yes, sometimes I can get carried away with the positive spin, even though we both know the other side of the coin is far from pretty. Maybe it's because, deep down, I'm still an optimist. Or maybe it's just part of the fun we have exploring the darker side of things, knowing that the danger we write about is fiction. For now. But who knows? In a few years, your dark science journals might just be used as a cautionary tale for future generations. Fingers crossed it's not a blueprint for disaster.